Living during this pandemic has been complicated enough for all of us. It's been even more complicated for educators. It's been especially complicated for music educators. Now imagine if you're doing all of that, plus leading an association that is here to serve music educators. Well, that's what we're talking about today on PMEA's Take Note podcast, presented by the Slippery Rock University Music Department. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us for another podcast. And today we're talking with a couple music educators here in Pennsylvania, but they're more than just a couple music educators. They're pretty involved here in PMEA. Phil Stattel is the current PMEA president, and Tina Bennett is the PMEA past president. Both current music educators, and we're going to talk to them about their teaching situations, and we're going to talk to them all about PMEA and what's happened in the last year and what happens going forward. So first of all, thank you both for coming on the podcast and agreeing to be here with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Glad to be here.
Let's start with your stories of the last year. I'm just really curious of what this was like, and I'm going to go to Tina first, based on that facial expression when I said, "What was this year like?" So tell us about your year, what you teach, what this has been like.
Well, everything up to the fateful day of March 13th, things were going great. We had heard about this thing coming, this pandemic coming, but it hadn't hit home. I teach in a small school district in Clarion, Pennsylvania, and I teach 7 through 12 general music, modern band. I have a theater class, I have a keyboard class, and ensembles, all 7 through 12. And so I have kind of a cornucopia I teach kind of everything in the high school. So everything was going great. And we were 3 days away. That next week was my Pops concert that we had been working on. Lo and behold, the world shut down. Oh, we're going to be 2 weeks. No big deal. We'll just, review. We're going to go online, excuse me. And, kids will review their music. I recorded everything and posted it on their Google Classroom so they could practice and be ready to go, that in 2 weeks, we're going to come back and we'll have our concert, right? I even rescheduled the dumb thing. Yeah. Then it just kept getting longer and longer and longer. And as that time went on, your heart starts to sink and you start realizing that this is a bigger deal than it was. You're quarantined at home, you're not seeing people, you're scared of the unknown and things like that. And then there's all of the PMEA events coming up that we had to cancel and all of that. It was constant communication between the XCOM and the executive office and all of that. What do we do? Do we postpone? Do we cancel? And eventually, of course, we ended up having to cancel everything and try to just then reestablish what's going on. So it was such a whirlwind. It's almost hard to remember. It's like a dream that did it happen or didn't it happen? And was this my reality? When people lost their musicals. People or opened one night and it was done. If they got that much, when I walked back into my building in the summer, it was like an apocalypse had happened because the music is still there. Kids' folders are still full and stuffed in and messed and papers everywhere. And I walked into the auditorium and it was getting set up for my concert. And I just had an emotional meltdown of all of the loss of the music that we didn't get to do. And so there was a mourning period completely that, and that's just personally, that's your personal. There's a whole separate PMEA situation, and we can get into that later, but it was a roller coaster. And then when you came to realize that you were losing so much, it was very overwhelming.
It's so bizarre how it feels like it was yesterday, but at the same time, it feels like it was 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
so bizarre. Phil, what about tell us about your teaching year.
Oh, this year. Well, it's been quite interesting. We've had about 3 different scenarios that they had planned for. One where it was going to be a hybrid, one where we're basically at school, and one where we're all completely online. And we've done all 3 and then some already this year. The hardest thing still is just getting used to teaching two classes at the same time, basically, because you're teaching students live in the classroom at the same time you have students live on Zoom. And I know a lot of other places are doing that. I know some schools have it differently where they're doing asynchronous, but we're doing synchronous teaching at the same time virtually that we're teaching in class, and trying to manipulate and change plans around so that you can actually have students involved in both areas. That's taken a little bit of doing. Luckily, been able to find some things like just a virtual xylophone was just a godsend for my general music classes. So I could have them be able to actually play something and actually, get involved in what we're doing normally we'd be doing in the 7th grade general music classes. Because I teach 7th grade general music, 7th grade, 8th grade guitar, high school guitar, high school chorus, junior high chorus. And it's, like everybody, we're supposed to do everything, and we do, and we have fun with it usually. But that's been the biggest obstacle so far, is just getting to that, and then just trying to figure out what you're going to be in the following day. Are you going to be in all virtual? Are you going to be in the semi one? Are you going to be back to quote normal? And it's just been a little on the confusing side sometimes, just trying to figure out, okay, let's see, let's plan this for this week, and then if this goes, then I can do this, and if this doesn't go, then I can do this. One thing that I've been very thankful for, though, was a program that Robert Natter from Gettysburg presented this year at the summer conference, which was the Choral Works program, where you can upload your songs as a MIDI file, and your students can take it anywhere and practice on their phone, on their computer. And that's just been wonderful, because I get my stuff, I put it in, I get it into the MIDI, and I send it out to the program into Choral Works, and it's just been great. And it's very, he's got it set up so that you can do it. It's a little detailed getting to it sometimes, but he's got a whole step-by-step process where you can actually work through it. So that's been good, and I've been thankful so far that I've actually had students in class, even though we haven't been in my classroom. I've been teaching in my classroom, then I've also been teaching in the cafeteria with my high school choir, and in the small auxiliary gym with my junior high school choir, because then we can actually have and actually we were outside with the junior high choir at the beginning of the year too, where we could find a place inside once it started getting cold. But the gym is interesting. It's very echoey, but it's just being able to hear the kids sing was just wonderful. I mean, just the one day where we just sight read parts from Silent Night just to get them singing something together, it was just wonderful. And then I've tried without great success, but I've been trying to put together some of the pieces that we were working on, just an audio recording. I gave the kids a track to try and do it, and it's interesting where there's some of their beats end up. I'll leave it at that. Just trying to line things up. I thought, oh, this will be easy. I'll just take this one and just cut and paste it and put it right there, and cut this one, cut and paste, and I'll just hit play and it'll sound wonderful.
Yeah, so you've all had to become video editors and audio engineers and television personalities. I mean, it's all rolled into one, in the past 10 months.
I tried conducting and talking over the music once, and I just have this in your ear and then sing it. And then I realized after I did that, every time I talked, they couldn't hear the music anymore because the microphone picked up on me instead of, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just send you this. It's been interesting. So we've listened to some, and it's been interesting.
Well, so to that point, in the past 10 months, there's probably been more professional development created than in the last 10 years. That said, I mean, it's all valid, and it's really important, and I think that everyone's learned from it, but you still have to come up with content for your classes every day. Not knowing what it's going to be, how you're going to deliver the content, and taking into account all of the mitigation factors that you have to be aware of if you happen to be in person in some way. So I'm just curious if you could speak a little bit to this challenge of the content, of finding stuff to do.
Right. We are literally building the plane while we're flying it.
Right.
Because in other areas, they have books and sequences of math problems and history and all of that, and it goes in a certain order. Our end goal for ensembles specifically is a concert or a performance. That's gone. That's completely gone. So now we did a lot of theory, a lot of things like that. The one program I came up with to get the kids to sing was, I called it the Happy Birthday Project. And we adopted some local nursing facilities because their families can't get in to see them. So each one of my children, grades 7 through 12, had an individual resident, and they had to record a happy birthday video for them. And they told a little bit, hi, I'm Joey, I'm a junior, I like this, that, and the other thing. And then they sang happy birthday to this person and wished them a happy birthday. Brought me to tears, made me laugh. Some of them danced and were silly, but every single kid. And then I sent them to the nursing homes. So they loved it. The people gathered around and watched everybody's, little performance. But so then I got this great idea. So yay, victory, right? I'm rolling with this stuff. Let's do a little Christmas ensemble here. Get together, the 4 or 5 of you, and, little small groups, except we weren't in school at that point. Again, you pop in, you pop out, you just don't know. And so trying to get those kids to be able to record that. The most successful one was TikTok. They actually used the TikTok app to put all the kids' parts together to be able to perform it, but most of them crashed and burned. So I had this wonderful, great success, and then it died. And so, that's been the whole challenge. You can find 400 million beautiful graphics, all these things on rhythm and pitch and notation and different things like that. And then the kids look at it and they go, I don't know. But so sometimes they like what you have to say, and you do a screencastify and you just put it literally with a Sharpie marker on the board. And they're like, oh yeah, I get that now. You don't know what's gonna succeed. And one day you're like, I'm rocking this online stuff. And the next day you're like, oh my goodness, I'm awful. And you wake up and try all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. With my general music classes, I've switched over to a lot more on the composition side, because normally we'd be doing guitar. Half of the semester we do guitar, the other half we do keyboards, and then a small bit of composition also. But first of all, I don't have guitars to send home with everybody. So the ones who are online wouldn't have it, so that wouldn't work. So we have to find something else to do. The only class that had guitar this year was actually my guitar class, and I did make sure that those kids had something. Not the best of guitars, because didn't have all the best ones, but I did have some I could send home. So took care of that as best we could. But then with general music, we really started focusing on what composers do, what they use, what are the techniques. And it's, again, teaching both virtually and live in person and over Zoom. It really tests you. I'll put it that way. Because what you would think would take maybe a day normally in your normal classroom, it's going to take at least 2, if not 3 now. And it's yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where you really want to go a lot further, but in this case, technology is not assisting that. It's in some ways limiting that, because we have to do not in person, but we have to do the virtual along with that. And just trying to even get used to all the glitches that you get with a program. All of a sudden, oh, okay, well, you just click this. It's not working, Mr. Stattel. Oh, okay, well, hold on a second, bring your computer over. And because even the kids in school are doing it on computer, because you can't give out the hand stuff. So they're doing stuff on computer. This won't load. Okay, reload the whole thing, just reboot, that's it. So it's just, it takes more time. You can't just say, okay, everybody pick up your instruments and let's go.
Right.
Those days are gone for the time being. And it'll be nice if we get back to those. But I really appreciate the times where we actually can, like, we're back to more everybody in school. So I've got at least bell sets now underneath their chairs. I have them opened. They sit down, they push the chair away. I hand them a mallet. When they're done, I collect the mallets and sanitize them, and don't touch the bell set. Otherwise I got to sanitize that. So nobody touch the bell set. And it's a whole new world, and it's not the one from Aladdin, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting in the fall as I'm reading things about, not just music education, but education as a whole of how we're all going to have to think differently about the fall because of exactly what you're saying. What would take 1 day is now taking 2 to 3 days. And so how are we going to account for the learning loss across all the disciplines? And that's, I even think, a hard thing to even start to figure out here at the end of January, because we don't know how much of that we will continue to lose by the end of the school year, or maybe we can make just at least a little bit of gain. So we don't know where we're going to be. So I just think that's an interesting piece of the puzzle. So, okay, you guys, you're teaching, first of all, you're living through the pandemic like the rest of us, which is stressful enough. You're teaching through a pandemic, which is obviously crazy stressful, but let's add something else to it. Tina, you were the PMEA president as it hit. Phil, you took over this summer as president. So you guys had that on top of all of that, serving an association that had a spring conference planned, an in-person spring conference planned that had to be canceled, and then moving a summer conference virtual. So I'm curious about what's your take on the PMEA side of what happened. And so Tina, I want to start with you because you were president on that fateful Friday the 13th.
It was fateful.
Yeah.
The big thing, we knew we had to communicate and start quick and hit the ground running. And so immediately we reached out to everybody we knew, including David Dietz at the Department of Ed. And, we knew there were going to be big decisions made that we had to either be a part of or be aware of. And so, letter writing to superintendents about, we're going to handle sanitizing and I learned more about spit and aerosol stuff than I ever thought I needed to know. And people wanted the information right now. It wasn't ready. And so we just kind of held on. And then there was, NAFME was doing their best to get information out quickly on demand. And they had mentioned something about not singing at all. Well, then the study wasn't in. So we literally, PMEA led the way, marched to them immediately and said, look, you cannot shut down singing. I mean, that takes out pretty much elementary general up through the early grades, and then the senior high vocal, junior and senior high vocal. So they retracted that. I mean, we were watching every new piece of information coming out. We would talk about, we would analyze and try to come up with, how are we going to deal? Well, we got Terry Myers, our person who does our webinars and things like that. And also, Mark helped out as well. And I mean, it was all hands on deck, our whole executive staff, Abby and Kayla and Marissa and Kelly, and, even Margaret was helping. I mean, everything we could think of, Mary Lynn, just that we could, what can we do? And we came up with the toolbox, the big red toolbox that we put right front and center. And if we had anything from anybody, remember, some of us, me, started teaching and everything before the internet and cell phones existed. And now this is my life. I mean, there was a big learning curve. How can we help? We need resources and we need to teach each other. So we started dumping everything we could into that PMEA toolbox. And again, just trying to be involved and have a seat at the table, any table we could. We reached out and got involved with the PSBA, the School Board Association, because we knew that they were going to make tough decisions and we wanted to help them decide. We didn't want to come to any organization, any other organization, such as the School Board Association or the superintendents, without our information. We don't want to say, we've got a problem. We wanted to say we have a solution. And so we got together and just gathered as much information, participated in as many things as we could. Henry Perlberg and I worked on some fall opening ideas for David Dietz, and just tried to put things together as much as we knew at the time, which again, take a day and it changed the next, to give everyone the information that they were so desperately seeking, to try to prepare for what we had coming when there was really no preparation that we could have for a completely unknown situation. And the scenarios across the state were vastly different. Vastly different. You had the Philadelphia areas and all of that they were just, it was such a hotbed for COVID. And then you had the rural areas that some of them were doing just fine. But we have to be able to have the resources for both. So we really reached out to every other organization we could think of across the state, including the thespians and the dance and the visual arts people, to try to talk. And we did. We talked all summer about what are you doing and how are you doing it, and back and forth. And the sharing was amazing. But again, we still came into the fall not knowing everything, but because we can't. So,
Right.
but that was, I mean, it was 14-hour days in front of a computer, talking on Zoom calls, hosting meetings at night for people, town halls, and talking back and forth and roundtables. It was a lot, but I got to talk to people, and you really got to feel the passion for music just started to me swell, even though we couldn't do it. The passion is starting to grow, I think, because we know we need it now more than ever.
On the last podcast with Byron Stripling from the Pittsburgh Symphony, and one of the things that he said that really resonated with me was, imagine how much great art is being made right now. We just don't know it, because it's happening in everyone's basements, right? Metaphorically. And so when this is all over, the desire to make music, the desire to make art, the desire for theater is going to be just so much higher, because we all want to be out doing something, and we've missed that. So it's, to your point of that connection, I think it's going to play out in that way. So about midsummer, Tina got to say, okay, step back a little, and here you go, Phil. Here's a pandemic for you. Navigate it. So Phil, you took over, and I love what you say. I'm PMEA's first virtual president, and because you haven't been able to actually be at a conference as president yet. But talk to us a little about, from your perspective, as taking over here in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, I'd say the best thing about taking over at this point would be the people who have been around, and when we were all working together when it all first hit, and everybody was chipping in. Everybody was saying, well, how about this, why don't we try it, why don't we look at this? I mean, we even got in touch with PIAA, to see what they were doing. Everybody was really trying to see what they could do to make this year better for everybody else. And as Tina mentioned there, Terry was just gung-ho with getting all the online workshops and everything set. And, they were just fabulous.
And they're all still online. That's all still archived.
Still there.
Yeah.
And if you have a question about trying something, take a look at them. They're great. Then we also this year have had the open forums, which kind of grew out of the groups that we put together to say, well, what are some of the best practices that worked in the spring that we can bring to the fall? How can we adjust them? How can we adapt them? And also the summer conference. There were more people that attended the summer conference, even though it was virtual, than have been before. A lot of that's because everybody at that time, I think, was thinking, what are we going to do in September? Are we going to be there? And if so, how are we going to do it? What can we do differently? And you see all these things online now, which everybody, it's almost overwhelming. You get emails from Wenger, you get emails from Music First, you get emails from Scott Lang, and it's all great stuff, but it does get a bit overwhelming. And that's another reason why the toolbox is a great idea, because you can just go and look and say, okay, what is something there that actually I need or I want to do? And I loved how at the summer conference, people were talking about not so much the what, but the how. Change the how you're teaching it. Music is still music, whether you're singing it or composing it or just practicing or thinking about it, or it's going to affect you. And so we just and that's really what we've been doing this whole year, is just figuring out how to get that information out there, whether it's, as we were saying, with a virtual choir or a virtual band or a virtual rehearsal, or more composition, or trying to figure out a way to get kids to be able to perform or practice something. Like I said, with that choral works over, so that the kids have something to work with, because, not many kids have a piano necessarily at home. I know I always wanted one growing up, but I never got one until after I was a second year college student, I guess. But I mean, even then, the electronic keyboards, the ones that you got, really were dinky. So that was back before the internet also. So what you got, I mean, it had a little, you probably remember it, Tina, those little air pipe organ things.
Casios or
Those little ones about yay big. So, but yeah, it just the people there putting in and putting forth the effort and putting all the work in. And then this summer deciding that we're going to go with a virtual conference. And everybody was right on board, and we're okay, let's do it. Let's do it well. Let's do it right. And then same thing when we got to the Eastern Division meeting. Yeah, we still want to do an all Eastern. We still want the kids to get a chance to do it. We still want to do a conference for everything. And Tina's been really involved with that also, as in the fact that she's running for all Eastern president, this Eastern Division president. And I said, well, Tina, you want to get involved with this? She's like, yeah. So that was great. And one of her, I think one of the things that she's been really pushing for with the all Eastern conference, the Eastern conference, is the stuff for the teachers. She's been talking about it doesn't need to be a 45-minute workshop. It can be a 15-minute workshop, a 10-minute workshop, and then 10 or 15 minutes, just let people ask questions and say, how does this work? So that you're not really overloading people. I mean, you can Zoom so often, and I still am it kind of boggles the mind, because I've been, Zooming just since September. Well, actually, we've been Zooming since March now. But I mean, I was so sick of Zoom and online stuff after the first week. I was like, no. And I just still can't fathom how students choose to do cyber sometimes, because I can't sit in front of a computer that long personally. So I marvel that they can do that.
Right.
But yeah, and just the way people have worked and put forth the effort, it's just been great. I mean, from Tina, Henry, Scott, and then Scott Sheehan also from NAFME, who's done a lot with us also, and just trying to put stuff out there and get it out into the membership as fast as possible, and hopefully we can continue to do that. Hopefully we won't need to do that shortly, but just trying to get the information out there and getting as much help to the membership as possible. I mean, I know I've needed it.
So speaking of that, I mean, what's next? What are the things that are, we can't plan a year from now at the moment, but what are the things that, we can look for out of the association here in the next few months?
Well, we're doing the AllState auditions. Those will be going on shortly. There'll be the band has already started there. They've gotten their music for that, and the chorus will be coming out, and then the orchestra, and then we'll be getting the AllState ensembles put together, and then
Virtually.
Virtually, yes, it'll be all virtual. But again, going right back to this past summer at the NAFME Leadership Conference. Abby was talking with people there in Wisconsin. I think it was Wisconsin, wasn't it, Tina?
Yeah.
They did not cancel their AllState at all last year. They went directly to a virtual platform and did a virtual AllState. So AllState Festival. So Abby was right on that and got the information and said, well, what worked, what didn't, and got all that to Mary Lynn, and Mary Lynn was like, well, this sounds good. So, I mean, just taking what's out there and running with it, and, adapting to what we can do. And we're trying to also open up some things during the conference to more students so that they can be more involved. We're going to see we've talked about getting a few more students probably into the Future Music Educators Honor Symposium to get maybe, since we don't have to worry about the housing and the feeding and everything like that, it's cheaper that way. But we also don't want to overload it and make it where it's such a large group that it wouldn't get the same impact that it normally would. But to try and do a little bit more in quite a few different ways that we couldn't do before. And we're still trying to figure out everything else that we can do. But Tina's also been working on something that will hopefully open up a lot more opportunities for students. Now I'll let her talk about that.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm working with Paul Fox and Dr. Catherine Malego and Dr. Tim Helm. I'm saying his name. What's that?
Jonathan.
Thank you, Tim, not Tim, Jonathan, I'm sorry. Jonathan Helmick both from Slippery Rock. And they are amazing individuals. And we're working on, I believe we're settling on the name Crescendo. And it's an opportunity for the students grades 8 through 12. And we've got strands for them to look at, everything from country music, music therapy, college prep, different things. And we've got master classes available. I personally have 2 people who are Metropolitan Opera performers, now currently on unemployment, but they're going to be doing master classes with the kids. We have a potential country music producer coming. We've got David Wish from Little Kids Rock is coming, along with Scott Bernstein, who did the modern band at Nationals last year. He's going to be working with our guitar players. These kids are going to get Zoom meets with these people and to talk about anything, and also a lot of higher ed, little colleges that are big colleges, all of them, and not necessarily just music kids. What if you just want to say, I'm going to go be an engineer, but I still want to play it in the marching band? Is that possible? Yes, it is. And this is what you need to know. And so we really wanted to just give these kids, and these wouldn't be your AllState kids, these would be other kids, by teacher nomination. So teachers will nominate their best and brightest and say, here, give this a try. It'll be a nominal fee for them to be involved for a day-long event and workshops and inspirational and music, and let them find out, maybe I like this music thing, but maybe I don't want to be a teacher. What else can I do? And so we're really sitting down and talking through it. And the people who are responding to our asks to come talk and work with these kids, oh my goodness, their degrees are human. I mean, and their expertise is unmatched. And I'm so excited because we're offering this to our Pennsylvania kids, and we can take a ton of them because we're doing it virtually. They don't have to travel. They can sit at their home and meet with these fantastic people.
And that's April 17th. So it's actually part of the same time when we're doing we're still doing a conference. We're still doing our regular annual conference. So this is just kind of that add-on thing right at the end of it. And you can find all that information at PMEA.net. The information on the student thing isn't there yet because we're working on that, but that will be out there.
And then the hopeful thing is that this will go over so well that this can be something we can add in to the AllState festivals for the future also.
Right.
To open up then for kids there from then on, which would be great. Just, trying to get more students involved, more teachers involved in as many ways as we can. And we've been trying to think out of the box because the box is kind of imploding.
That's right.
Blew that box up.
Yep.
So we're almost out of time, but Tina, I want you to talk quickly about another project that you've kind of spearheaded, this Beyond the Classroom project. If you tell us what it is, how do people get involved?
Well, I have a couple of former students who are involved professionally, and a couple of former classmates and one that I was talking to over our class reunion, he was talking about how, our virtual reunion, that they're all of his at the symphony out in San Francisco, there's all these professionals with nothing to do. And I thought, well, would they want to kind of, zoom into a classroom? He's like, yeah. So Abby and I started talking, Mark helped, we've all been talking about this. And so we set up a database to collect their information, and we have started sending things out. Natalie Ozea's got some people that, used to be at Carnegie Mellon, and she's got some the names are crazy. These people are ready and available to like zoom into your classroom and talk to your students. I had one, she was on Broadway. She was in Spider-Man and she was in Pippin and all of that. She zoomed in with my theater class and we spent 40 minutes talking with her, and my kids were on fire. It was so exciting. That's what we have. We have these amazing professionals, and we have it all on our PMEA website that you can look at all of their information, and you can reach out to them as an educator and say, hey, could you give up 30 minutes of your time to talk to my trombone section? And we've got people across all the genres, all the areas, the content areas, and they're wanting to do this because number one, they're bored. They're tired of just sitting around. They can't go anywhere, especially those who are in New York. And they love what they do. That's why they do it. And they're spreading that love across the state. So for basically nothing, you're getting, for some of them, some you may have to work out some details and there might be fine, but that's, between you and them. But you're getting these amazing people with amazing knowledge to give, and the energy and the passion. And sometimes they'll even sing for you or play for you, and the kids go nuts, or they show a clip of something they've done, and it's amazing. And I'm so excited. So if you know anyone, please lead them to that. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody. And so I want, this is a plea not only to use it, but to fill it. And the more we fill it, the more we can use these people. And they want to, they really, really want to, and they're phenomenal, and they're sharing. So, I thought, they're sitting around doing nothing. We need the resources. If you have an online day, or if you're pulled back out for a couple of days because of quarantine, because everybody knows it's all different, maybe you access one of these people and your kids could literally sit at home and watch and zoom into a classroom with them. So many possibilities.
And there's some of them I want to sit in and watch too. Because these aren't just performers. These are people who are doing some of the behind the scenes work as well. So PMEA.net, it's right on the homepage, the Beyond the Classroom project. Check it out. So we're out of time, but we could talk for hours. Phil and Tina, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your service to PMEA, especially during these crazy times, but really thank you for the work you're doing in the classroom and in your virtual classrooms as well, because being a teacher right now is it's pretty complicated. So everything that you're navigating, we really appreciate it. So again, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
Mark.
And thank you all for joining us on this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast, presented by the Slippery Rock University Music Department. We also want to thank our sponsors, the Bucknell University Music Department, Lebanon Valley College, and Robert M. Sides Family Music Centers. We will see you next time on Take Note.